Hello, viewer. I'm Zach, and since 2016, I've also held the moniker No More Updates on PlayStation. Throughout the years, I've platinum and completed over 450 games, including some well known difficult ones. And after many years of watching some amazing content creators, I decided it was time to start sharing my journey with the world as well. Currently, I'm working to try to ensure a new video comes out at least every 2 months. I hope you enjoy seeing what my experiences are like, and hopefully seeing my videos get better in quality as I continue making them. I appreciate you stopping by to check out the vid, and hope you enjoy this episode of the Platinum Journey.
Devil May Cry 2, the game that makes you wonder if someone at Capcom looked at the original title, shrugged, and said, yeah, let's do that, but slower, longer, and slightly more boring. Originally intended as a bold follow up to the iconic Devil May Cry, it stumbled out of the gate with a development cycle as chaotic as the story itself. It shifted directors, there were a lot of redesigns, and definitely a notable drop in its overall polish. By the time it landed in players' hands, it was unmistakably different. Combat felt less daring, bosses felt less threatening, and the game's style system was more like a polite suggestion rather than challenge. And yet, here we are. Despite its flaws, it has trophies to earn. 34 of them to be exact, and I earned every single one of them, both on the PS4 and PS3 version, for no reason other than the simple fact that it would have felt incomplete if I didn't do it twice. Well, anyway, this platinum journey is going to be less of a story like it was in the first video. This time, I'm mostly just going to be focusing on going through every single trophy, talk a little bit about the grinds, the frustrating bosses, and I'm probably just going to be sprinkling in a lot of jokes. And maybe this will be proof as to why getting this platinum is easy, but just not worth it in the long run. With all that introduction out of the way, welcome to my platinum journey of Devil May Cry 2. Let's get this over with. I broke this platinum journey down into 5 phases. Phase 1 was to complete the game 100% with Dante on the normal difficulty. Phase 2 was to complete the game on must die mode early, with Trish doing the bare minimum for collectibles and upgrades. Phase 3 was to complete the game on hard mode with Lucia using the infinite devil trigger and finish all of Lucia's collectibles. Phase 4 was to complete the Bloody Palace mode with Trish, also using infinite devil trigger. And then the final phase was going to be to buy the final upgrade for Dante and earn my platinum. But I'll get into all of that once we get to it. For now, let's start with phase 1. First trophy that I earned was called a Secret Revealed, and it was for completing a secret mission. This is the game's first reminder that Devil May Cry 2 technically contains optional content. Secret missions are scattered throughout the campaign, usually tucked behind suspiciously obvious triggers, such as doors that you just have to interact with, but they feel less like secrets and more like polite suggestions. I completed all 20 of them during my normal Dante run, not because they were challenging, but because leaving them for later would have meant revisiting a game I already was tired of trying to finish efficiently. Most of these missions boil down to just don't get hit at all, quickly kill things, and stand in the right place. And the game is extremely generous about what it considers success. This trophy pops right after the completion of the very first one, and that's actually the only trophy that has to do with secret missions. Technically, you could argue that the one for maxing health is, because you do get blue orb fragments, but ultimately these secret missions are just a waste of time. All you have to do in every single one of them, unlike in the very first game, is for these, you simply just kill 2 waves of enemies that spawn in. Usually it's just a handful of them. There's not really any kind of challenge. You can build up style if you want, but ultimately it doesn't matter in the long run. Completing these secret missions is boring and not any kind of challenge like it was in the first game or the third game. The next trophy on my list was monkeying around for defeating Oranguera. Orangera? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It's introduced as a massive demonic gorilla guarding the path forward for you to proceed through the level. The game presents it as a significant escalation in threat, but in story terms, he's another corrupted guardian standing between Dante and whatever vague evil is spreading throughout the city. In practice, he's slow, predictable, and remarkably patient. The fight gives you an enormous window to shoot him, reposition, and wonder if the developers expected this encounter to feel more intense than it actually is. Trophy unlocks as soon as his health bar is defeated, and all I could do at that point was just wonder, man, what else could I be doing with my time?
That's what I'm saying.
Proceeding throughout the rest of the level, the next trophy I got was called Stylish for performing an S-rank combo using Dante. The trophy sounds like a test of mastery of the combat mechanics, but truthfully, it's not. Dante's guns in Devil May Cry 2 are so dominant that the style system basically rewards you for existing just near the enemies while holding down the fire button. I wasn't stringing together elaborate combos or switching weapons mid-flight. I was simply engaging with the combat long enough for the game to decide that I actually looked impressive with what I was doing. The S rank pops early, and it becomes clear that style, much like the difficulty of this game, is mostly made up. The trophy may be called stylish, but truthfully, it was anything but that. Getting into my next trophy, I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now that most of the bosses in this game just have really strange names that I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly, but I'm going to give it my best. So the next trophy I earned was called No Joke for defeating Jokit Golem. Jokit Golem is one of the game's attempts at body horror, a grotesque, anamorphous demon that's basically an octopus, mermaid, stupid tentacly creature trying to take over the city. The story implies that it's a serious problem, something unnatural by demon standards, of course, but unfortunately, it's just a stationary boss fight that requires you to shoot it. The fight consists of largely unloading a lot of damage from my guns into the creature, which absorbs it without much reaction, occasionally reminding you that it's still alive. It starts to swing its tentacles and you have to jump, but ultimately, all it really boiled down to was standing in a corner and shooting, jumping, dodging, shooting, jumping. It was look, it's boring. It's a lame boss fight. There's nothing really fun to it. You can do other mechanics where you actually try to jump on its body and take out its tentacles, but ultimately, it's just not worth the effort. Just use the guns. That's exactly what I did, and the trophy was mine in no time. The next trophy I earned was a trophy called Sin City, and this was for defeating the boss Nephesturus. See, Nephesturus starts out as just this giant demonic presence that's an entity coming out of a building. This is one of the first laughable bosses of the entire game, and definitely one that a lot of people would remember. Basically, Nephesturus is just this what looks to be a body trying to escape from a building. It Nothing really impressive. All it actually does is just fire some lasers from its mouth. It's got a second phase where after you take out the first part, which includes the quote unquote body, the head detaches and then it starts to just try to do some different projectile attacks. Ultimately, it's just another boss that requires you to just fire the guns repeatedly, and inevitably the trophy will pop with its inevitable defeat. Next trophy I earned was called Ceruleus Diabolus or Diabolus. And like I said before, there's not any trophies that are specific for completing secret missions, but the secret missions do reward blue orb fragments. And this trophy was obtained after collecting 12 blue orb fragments. Blue orb fragments are scattered generously throughout the missions. You can find them in the secret rooms, sometimes they're just hidden as rewards, or sometimes they're just blatantly in the way, and you might as well just go ahead and grab them. There's not really any kind of decision making that affects the game. Basically, collecting things just exist because they're there. And as I was passing through, and I didn't get punished for going out of my way, not to mention the fact that I had to just to get Dante's health maxed. The next trophy was Arms Race, which was for reaching level 3 on any gun with Dante. Gun upgrades in Devil May Cry 2 dramatically outpace any melee weapon's usefulness. So it definitely makes this trophy feel more inevitable rather than something worth actually earning.
Yeah, you got that right.
Because ultimately, using sword combat is more just for nostalgia in this game than anything. The combat routine tends to just be shoot, 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 and then swing a sword if you really just feel like it. Next trophy I earned was for defeating a boss called Noctaren, and the trophy was called That's a Big Mother. And see, Noctaren is a giant flying boss that is basically a giant moth with a bunch of little larvae in the battlefield around. Now, the trophy specifically unlocks after defeating Noctaren, which unfortunately just boils down to jump and just repeatedly shoot, allowing yourself to kind of float in midair while descending slowly, eventually dealing enough damage to actually take the boss out. But the annoying part of this level is that you have to actually also take out the larvae, which tend to dig underground, before you're able to actually progress any further. So again, trophy was easy, just take out the moth thing, but the stupid larvae are the real annoyance of this actual level. I took them out, ended the level, and moved on with my life. Next trophy I earned was a trophy called Full Armory, and that was for collecting the final of Dante's melee weapons. And for this trophy, the sword that unlocked it for me was the sword called the Merciless. This is supposed to be the fastest sword in the game, but deals the least amount of damage, as well as it supposedly also has an extra extended range, allowing for you to be able to reach enemies without the need to get so close. But at the end of the day, you're still using a sword, so you're going to have to be close regardless, ultimately making it just one of the lesser used weapons to be um, used in combat effectively. So I just still stuck with the Vendetta, which was the most powerful sword according to the game, still preferring gun combat. Next boss fight that came up was against an enemy called Bulwark, and this gave me the opportunity to earn the trophy Hungry Like the Wolves. Bulwark is this skeleton demonic entity that shows up with a double bladed weapon and two wolf aides to help him in battle. Thankfully, despite the fact that the wolf aides are actually annoying because they're trying to attack you while you're trying to defeat the boss, you don't actually have to defeat them, and it mostly just boils down to jumping around and dodging attacks from three different enemies while continuously shooting at Bulwark and taking his health down, which is exactly what I did. The fight drug out far longer than it needed to, mostly just because, again, I didn't have the patience to try to take out the wolves first, and I just wanted the fight over with as soon as possible. But I did that, beat Bulwark for this time, and got my trophy. Next trophy on the docket was called Ball and Chain for defeating the Plutonian. Well, Plutonian is the kind of boss that made me think, well, maybe this is a boss fight that actually will require skill. But in reality, it really just requires perseverance and a healthy dose of projectile spamming via the guns. Story wise, Plutonian is just meant to serve as a bridge to the later stages of the game, a hulking presence that establishes, yes, things get slightly bigger and hopefully more threatening to provide some sort of actual challenge. But with Dante's upgrades, especially the upgraded submachine guns that I had at this point, it was mostly a matter of endurance. It wasn't until Mission 14 when I earned my next trophy, called Not Just Any Ordinary Human, for defeating Phantom. Yes, that's the exact same Phantom as the first game. It's the spider, scorpion, volcano, fiery boss. That was such a great and epic boss fight in the first one. But unfortunately, this game, yet again, is bogged down with the same kind of boring combat where most of it was just taking out its health using guns. Although I will say, I did actually use my sword quite a bit to slash at its face. It really didn't take much strategy, beat it on the first try, and earned my trophy.
All right, get lost, all of you. You're fired. Go on, scram. Get out of here, you moochers. That's right. Keep moving.
You know what? Yeah.
Except you. You stay.
Moving right along, towards the end of the game, the next trophy that I got was called Never Forget a Face for defeating Trismegia. And yes, the name of the trophy does actually represent exactly what this boss fight is, a multi-faced boss fight that is not just aesthetic, it also serves to provide a function where one face is fire, one face is lightning, and one face is ice. This fight is more of a lesson in patience ultimately, though. Trismegia telegraphs its attacks and gives just enough time to respond, and then after a few careful sequences, the health bar disappears, I unlocked my trophy, and I was just ready for this playthrough to finally be done. Once I reach the final mission, it's pretty much just a boss fight that is two phases. This first phase is against Argisax the Chaos, and the second phase was against the entity called the Despaired One. Argisax the Chaos was basically just an amalgamation of every single other boss that you fought in the game. As you move around the boss, it deals attacks based on what different boss it was, everything all the way back from Orangera, all the way up to Phantom. And then the Despaired One was a humanoid looking creature that played more like a traditional type of boss fight in a one on one encounter. But again, like this game always does, it boils down mostly to shooting and doing some melee combat, if anything, just to refill my double trigger. But for defeating the final boss with either Dante or Lucia, I earned the trophy Extinguished. As well as I earned the trophy Every Knee Will Bend for finishing the game on normal mode with any character. By this point, I've completed all of Dante's missions, collected everything that I possibly could, and crushed every boss in his playthrough. Time to move on to something hopefully at least a little more engaging in Lucia's campaign. Once I completed the story, I went back into Mission 9 with Dante and decided I would work to finish off upgrading all of his swords to obtain the trophy for reaching level 3 with all three of them, even though this isn't the max level for each of them. But it's just what they chose. So, this method involved manipulating the style system with infinitely spawning fire bats and dodging back and forth while standing in lava. Seriously, just watch the gameplay going on right now.
Wow.
All I needed to do was dodge enough to get an S rank, then just hold down the fire button with the submachine guns, and eventually thousands of red orbs would accumulate on the fiery bed. I picked them up, repeated the process if I lost the style rank, and after a while of grinding, I finally had enough red orbs to make the final upgrade, earning me the trophy like a hot knife through butter for reaching level 3 on all swords with Dante.
Nice.
Also, while grinding the red orbs for the upgrades, I took the time to ensure I got enough to make another very essential upgrade here, the Devil Trigger gauge. See, Devil Trigger, for those unfamiliar, gives Dante, and Lucia in this game, enhancements to the character, giving them more speed, abilities, and oftentimes just more damage in general. And while DMC2 has its downfalls, this is actually still the same and makes all the attacks, especially with the guns, significantly quicker to kill anything. So after purchasing all the available orbs, I earned my trophy, Magica Maxima, for maxing out the Devil Trigger gauge with any character, and then I only had one last trophy to get before moving on to Phase 2.
Yeah, boy.
Final trophy of Phase 1 was called Highest Honor for achieving an S rank on any mission with Dante. Earning an S rank in this game is honestly just annoying. Not really because it's difficult, but just tedious. Sadly, while working through the game for the 100%, I never naturally earned an S rank because this game's rating system is determined on time to complete the mission, your overall style, how many red orbs you gain, and most importantly, how much damage you took. And because I didn't really care while playing, I took damage frequently and just shrugged it off. This was unfortunately my downfall, though, because now I had to repeat playing Mission 8, which thankfully is just a boss fight against a boss called Furitoris, and kill it as quickly as possible with submachine guns. It doesn't sound too bad, and honestly, this boss is kinda lame because it only has a few attacks that it can do, but it was tedious because I would honestly get impatient, and that would cause me to take unnecessary damage. You see, all I really had to do for this boss was just load up the mission, dodge its one or two attacks, and then just fire the submachine guns. And if I really wanted to get spicy with it, I could dodge back and forth, which would slowly build my style rating. But ultimately, it didn't really matter in the end. To my dismay, this did take a few attempts because I just kept getting impatient and taking damage from the boss, like I said. But eventually, I took him down and got my S rank, earning the trophy Highest Honor, and moving on to playing through the Lucia campaign. For moving on to Phase 2, which was playing through the campaign as Trish, I actually needed to play through one mission first as Lucia, so I took this as an opportunity to try to knock out two of her trophies. The first trophy is called En Vogue for performing an S rank combo using Lucia. A simple trophy to earn, thankfully in the same way that earning an S rank with Dante didn't take much skill. I know I didn't explain it before, but I'll cover it now. The style system of this game just revolves around constant attacking without any breaks, as is the case pretty much with every DMC game. The more attacks you get in, the more your style goes up. But this game doesn't have a ton of intricate combos or attacks that allow for different variations. All that's needed here is to just attack repeatedly and the meter will inevitably go up. The struggle is that the enemy's having too little health to survive. So with enough enemies around, all I did was attack with Lucia's twin blades, and then I would use my throwing knives to extend the duration and not drop the combo, and then proceed to attack the next enemy. I did this enough times and earned the trophy En Vogue in the first enemy encounter of Mission 1. Speaking of Mission 1, this is the mission that I got an S rank with Lucia and earned her trophy, The Sky's the Limit. Like with Dante, this mission isn't anything to write home about. It sets to introduce how do you play as Lucia versus Dante, and honestly was a bit refreshing after the slog that was his story mode. Well, now, the reason I knocked out both of these trophies was all because beating a single mission on normal mode with Lucia was required for me to perform the early unlock method for Trish and must die mode in the game. So I finished this mission with my S rank and got the trophy, and then proceeded to start up must die mode using Trish. So let's quickly talk about unlocking Trish. So DMC2 featured the character Trish as playable throughout the campaign, and while she does have her own weapon and set of attacks, the story does not change while playing as her. All the rendered cutscenes are still showed Dante or Lucia like they normally would, so playing as her from a story perspective basically means that Trish didn't actually exist in the game. Now, normally, unlocking Trish would happen by beating hard mode with both characters, and unlocking must die mode would require beating hard with the respective character I wanted to play as. However, I wanted this done as quickly as possible, so I used the allowed cheats that are available in the game. By holding down L3, R3, L1, and R2 while on the main menu until a sound is heard, and it takes quite a long time for the sound to come up, you'll unlock Trish as a playable character early. And I won't even begin to cover all the absurd steps that it takes to unlock Must Die mode early, but the forums over on PSN Profiles have all the information if you want to check it out for yourself. Regardless, completing both of these steps, I was able to unlock Trish and Must Die mode, so now it's time to go through Lucia's campaign, playing as Trish.
Oh, yeah. It's all coming together.
So the first trophy I earned in this playthrough was in Mission 2 against the end boss, the Tartar Russian. The Tartar Russian is just a reskin of the Plutonian from the Dante campaign with literally no different attacks, but just a smaller arena and less laser beams.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. Intel has told us there are at least 7.
Okay, I already see one. Give me. Okay.
They're the same picture.
The easiest way to take this boss down is to simply dodge and then fire with the ranged weapon. For Lucia, this would have been throwing knives, but because I was using Trish, she had dual pistols like Dante. I will say one benefit of Trish is that her primary sword, which is Sparta, and her pistols are fully upgraded to their max level. Sadly though, those are the only weapons she gets in the entire playthrough. Her devil trigger is definitely busted as well, and this will be explained a lot more when we get to her Bloody Palace trophies at the end. But after a lengthier amount of time than I'd like to admit, I took this boss down and earned the trophy 2 heads are better than 1 for defeating the Tartar Russian. Between missions 3 and mission 7, I didn't actually earn any trophies until the end boss of that mission. Oh boy, this freaking trophy. So this trophy is called Deep One, and it's for defeating the final boss of mission 7, Tate Obesu. So the mechanic of this boss is that Tate Obesu can turn invisible, but attacking it will make it reveal itself and leave it vulnerable. However, on Must Die mode, it stays invisible, preventing locking onto it for the entirety of the fight. Oh, and did I mention that this entire boss fight is underwater? Yeah, Devil May Cry 1 had trash underwater parts, but they were very short and manageable. But this game puts it all to paper. This game is abysmal underwater, and the boss fight is a perfect example. I just couldn't get my attacks to land with Trish no matter what I tried, and because it was on Must Die mode, it obviously was taking a long time already. So what I ended up doing was backing out and replaying the mission using Lucia, because one of her ranged weapons were grenades. They're called cranky bombs, but we'll just call them grenades. Underwater, this was perfect because she just drops a grenade, and if it happens to explode while next to the boss, then it would deal some damage. That's right, grenades explode perfectly fine underwater here. So I did this until the boss was defeated, and then I switched back to Trish for mission 8. But don't worry, I'll be back to get my revenge. But doing this with Lucia did earn the trophy, and I moved on. Now, the next trophy that I earned while playing through as Trish was called Take Heart Lucia, which was for collecting all Devil Hearts with Lucia. A lot of the collectibles that you would normally get while playing through the campaign can't be picked up, such as the extra weapons that Lucia would normally get, but thankfully I was still able to collect her Devil Hearts. See, Devil Hearts are an introduced mechanic of this game exclusive in this one specifically. Both Dante and Lucia carry around an amulet that can be powered up with various jewels. They've got 3 categories: ability, support, and elemental, each with 3 jewels making 9 in total. These are found throughout the levels, completing either some minor puzzle or just through regular progression. Ultimately, this trophy wasn't anything to really worry about, and with chapter select, I could have just gone back at any time to pick up one that I might have missed. But thankfully, I didn't need to. And after collecting the Chrono Heart at the start of mission 11, I earned the trophy and proceeded to complete the mission.
Nice.
Well, it shouldn't come as any surprise, but the next trophy that I earned in this playthrough wasn't until I fully completed the game on Must Die mode difficulty. But thankfully, I was at that point after doing really all I could to just rush through the game with Trish. And now that I had the hardest difficulty completed, I was ready to just glide through the rest of the list. So thankfully, I earned the trophy Every Tongue Will Confess for finishing the game on Must Die mode and was ready to move on.
What are they, vegetables or fruit? And what does that make? Ketchup.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Well, after completing the game on Must Die, I was sadly not surprised that I didn't also get the trophy for completing the game with Trish, and that's because of Mission 7. Yep, that's right, the same mission with Tate Obesu, that big dumb fish. Because I did actually beat him with the mission fully, but I used Lucia, it didn't obviously count for completing the game entirely with Trish, so I needed to reload that mission specifically and take him out to earn this trophy. Thankfully, because I had beaten the game on Must Die mode, I could actually take advantage of a very amazing exploit in this game with the language settings. See, due to a slight region difference between the European or PAL version of the game and the US version of the game, Infinite Devil Trigger could now be accessed. However, my version was US, but by simply changing the language settings on my console entirely, it makes the game believe that it is the PAL version, thus granting access to the use of Infinite Devil Trigger. So with this activated, it was a breeze to just go back through the level and finish off Tate Obesu once and for all and earn my trophy. Oh, and from now on, all the trophies will be in French up until the Platinum itself.
Nice.
So much like Dante, Lucia has access to some new weapons she can use. Arsenals in specific are the ranged weapons that she uses: the throwing knives, the cranky bombs, which again I'm going to call grenades, the bowgun, and the darts. I didn't actually get to collect any of these while playing as Trish, like I said, because they just don't exist in the game while playing through with her, despite the levels being basically the exact same. So I just mopped this up while running through the hard campaign with Lucia using Infinite Devil Trigger. And the last one I needed was the darts. So after picking those up, I earned the trophy. And remember, they're all in French, so the trophy is actually in English. Check out my collection for collecting all arsenals as Lucia. Using Infinite Devil Trigger made the entirety of hard mode very trivial for Lucia, which is exactly the point and what I was hoping for. There was really nothing special of note here, just something that I needed to get done. The trophy, Every Head Will Bow, unlocked once I finished beating the final boss, which meant I had to go through every single mission again, and I earned my trophy and was ready to move on. The next two trophies I'm going to talk about, I'm going to just group together. And they're called Armed and Dangerous for reaching level 3 with any sword with Lucia, and To the Max for reaching level 3 on all arsenals with Lucia. These trophies unfortunately required me to do yet again some more grinding with Lucia to get enough red orbs to purchase the upgrades. However, unlike with Dante's campaign, there was not a very quick way to amass a metric buttload of red orbs in the same quick manner. The easiest and most efficient way was to farm Mission 9 using Infinite Devil Trigger with Trish. Using Infinite Devil Trigger combined with Trish makes this method very breezy, and the longest part is just needing to reload the mission from the main menu every time. After I honestly couldn't even tell you how many times I did this, I finally was able to get enough red orbs, loaded up a mission as Lucia, and then purchased the upgrades to earn Armed and Dangerous for reaching level 3 with one of Lucia's swords, and then To the Max for reaching level 3 with all arsenals with Lucia. Phase 3 is now complete, so on to Bloody Palace. Bloody Palace in Devil May Cry 2 is just a sad joke of the mode. While the core of it is still the same as the other games, it's pretty depressing because it's just a repeat of the same secret mission formula the game gave me while I was doing those back in Dante's campaign. And now it's more just a waste of time. It doesn't actually feel like a worthy challenge to complete at all. The entire mode and all of the trophies in it are earned doing the exact same thing. Start the floor, activate Infinite Devil Trigger, fly up, shoot lightning lasers, enemies die, and then take the portal that raises you 100 floors to repeat. Now, thankfully, I was able to do this all as Trish because, again, she just has an absolutely busted Devil Trigger move, which is that lightning lasers while she's in the air. There wasn't anything that I actually had to think about. I just had to remember to move the controller into the portal once the enemies were defeated every now and then. But within this mode, there were 3 trophies to earn. First Blood was for passing 1,000 levels. Bloodletting was for passing 5,000 levels. And over 9,000, which was for passing 9,000 levels. And all of that out of the way, Bloody Palace mode was finally done, and the platinum is finally in sight. The last deliberate pre-platinum trophy I earned was simply for finishing getting the maximum amount of health for any character, and I chose Dante. I saved this trophy for the end because at the time of working on this game, I was also doing all of the other Devil May Cry platinums, and I wanted to plat each one in succession on the same day. So because of this, I needed to save a trophy for the end that I could control, and I chose this one. The red orbs I saved up left me enough to purchase this one, so when the time was right, I loaded up the game, went into the shop, and made my purchase, earning the trophy Vita Maxima for maxing out Dante's health, and then finally the platinum titled Platinum Trophy. It's finally over. Every boss, every collectible, every tedious grind in Bloody Palace mode, all accounted for. The platinum popped and I couldn't be more thrilled. Not because it was actually impressive, but because it means I never ever have to play this game again. The campaign, the challenges, the S ranks, the endless red orb grinding are all behind me. Victory was never, sadly, not satisfying, and as a realization that I'm done with the game, I'm just so thankful that I'm done. The trophies are done, and Devil May Cry 2 is officially someone else's problem from here on out. Now I'll get into the portion of the video where I just kind of go off script and kind of give my final thoughts. Nothing that I actually wrote down specifically. So, the last time that I had actually played Devil May Cry 2 was well back on the PS2. It definitely felt like the same game from back then, and there were parts that I remembered. I don't know if I actually ever even beat the game back on PS2, and that could have been for a number of reasons. Maybe I was bored with it. Maybe it was that I did actually find the game kind of challenging just playing on normal mode. It could be any slew of reasons, honestly. Back in those days, I really wasn't the avid or slightly even proficient gamer that I am nowadays. So, I don't know. It could be attributed to anything. But anyway, speaking of this journey, so doing this game twice, definitely something I don't recommend. Honestly, even if you're just trying to play the entire trilogy, Man, I don't even know if I could recommend it then. I mean, from a platinum trophy standpoint, it definitely is the easiest one of the series. There was so much of the game that I just didn't even need to look at and really think about. I honestly just needed to move from objective to objective. Um, yeah, the only reason I even fought enemies whenever I did was just if I had to do it. Otherwise, I was just ready to move out and into the next mission and just get the game ultimately over with. If you do play all of the games, you'll definitely understand why this one is just seen as, and very much is, the most boring of the entire series. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to see if there is something that I really did enjoy about it. I like the design and the whole like aesthetic of where it is. It's kind of got this Italian-y vibe, Sicilian type deal stuff. Um, Kind of gothic in that sense, but it just, I don't know. It's not enough to really redeem it. The enemies themselves are all very boring and bland and lame, and they don't really provide much of any kind of challenge. There's no actual like intricacies that you have to do. There's no combos, and I say that as somebody who's not even like proficient in doing tons and tons of combos, right? I just wanted some more variety, and I didn't really feel that. The bosses even kind of somewhat repeat, like I said with the Tartarussian and the Plutonian, right? I mean, story-wise, they're different, but honestly, if you're playing this game for the story, I really don't know what else I could say or do to you or do for you. Honestly, it's just not even something that I would really recommend. Um, but yeah, I don't recommend this game. I guess for the sake of like completing the entire series, at least you have one to look forward to that is going to be a cakewalk and not one that requires tons and tons of effort, unlike most of the other games in the series. But yeah, I'm just thankful it's done. I'm happy to have it finally finished and ticked off. And with that, like the previous video was Devil May Cry 1, this is Devil May Cry 2. The next video that I will be starting to work on is going to be Devil May Cry 3. And I really hope you come back for that one. I hope this one didn't deter you. And I apologize for maybe a little bit of drop in quality from the previous videos upload. It was really just hard to stay motivated on this one. If you couldn't even tell by the sheer fact that I didn't really talk about the story much or lack thereof, and the much shorter video length. But I really appreciate you sticking by. If you do like the content, then definitely a like goes a long way. And if you're enjoying these Platinum Journey videos, please consider subscribing. That way you can just see what's coming next when it comes next. Yeah, I have fun doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it regardless. But yeah, so I thank you for your time. I appreciate you sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one.